Hey Jones, we're gonna fully break down your backside 360s to figure out how you can get them to the next level. The first thing I want to note is there's a lot to like about your backside 360, so let's go and highlight that right now. First of all, your timing from heel edge to toe edge, dead on, perfecto. What I really, really love though is your snap timing and head positioning. See how you're going and keeping your spot forward, shoulders squared, head centered. Absolutely wonderful. And then you're going and continue that momentum, pulling the head all the way through into this position, leading up your upper body, leading up your spot, while keeping that head completely centered. This is textbook. If we compare it to mine, very similar. What's a good thing? I'm pretty familiar with backside 360s. So the fact that we look at these and the technique and the base principles being used are very close is a super good sign. And then you're taking that back arm and continuing to pull it the whole way through the rotation and not needing to use counter rotation at all, just a clean rotation all the way through. Maybe a little bit of heel heavy landing, but that's pretty normal for airbag. So let's go and talk about how we can improve this and build you up to some bigger spins in the future. Because with this good of upper body leading and snap timing, uh, if we go and make some small changes, we should be able to get you doing some fives and sevens. And if nothing else, we'll get you making some very, very clean backside 360s with some pretty small changes. So the first change that you really need to make is right here on the in run. See how you're coming in a really tall position and your back arm is sort of squared here. So even though you're keeping yourself angled towards the corner of the jump with your board, it's not doing quite enough to open up your hips, open up your chest, and get you like sunk into that heel edge angle. And most importantly, because you're so tall, you need to rely on leaning to get that heel edge pressure. That's fine on like a super big jump, but on these smaller jumps like this, it's better to not need to rely on leaning as much. And the reason why with the pros, we see them doing forms like this, more similar, it's just because they're so locked in, they can get away with a lot. But if we compare your form here to mine, you can see that I'm fully leaned over. I have this nice bend in my legs. And the reason why doing this position will benefit you so much is first, it gets your chest more open. Next, it gets your hips more open. And finally, it keeps the same amount of pressure on your heel edge without needing to rely on leaning. This makes it so it will be easier to stand up and transition to your toe edge without doing as big of a motion. And this is bringing us into the biggest issue for your spit ends right now, and that's as you transition to your toe edge, you're collapsing and you're closing off. So see here, you're trying to be in an open position, but as you switch to your toes, your back arm's now in this closed position and your head is all the way over here towards the center of the jump. We want to keep our body as centered over top of our snowboard as possible. You can see here, I'm not completely centered. I'd be going more centered as I like snap into like a back dub 10 or something. And you can see that I'm sort of making myself a little bit taller throughout this. But because my hips are more open, because my chest is more open, my head is positioned here looking forward instead of angled looking towards the corner. And because of this small change, I'm able to go and hold a straight line with my board pretty much the whole way, where you're getting this little bit of pre-spin and you're making it so your axis rotation is set a little bit too heavy onto the toe edge. So how do we fix this? One second. You need to fix this with some off snow training. Currently, you're using a edge transfer philosophy of leaning from the heels to the toes. The problem with this is as we lean to our toes and we hit any stability, we're going to keep collapsing, collapsing, collapsing all the way. So it's making it so we're in a timing position. And here, let me just replicate your form quick. You're coming in from your heels like this, and then you're getting onto your toe edge and you're sort of closing like this, and then you're sort of leaning here. And that's making it so as you rotate, you're rotating through this motion like this. Let's not go and give you much pop up. Here's the difference between how I do it. I'm coming in squatted all the way down here, and instead of leaning forward, instead I'm pushing my hips up. This is letting my hips get open, my chest get open, and my head stay centered over my board. So the change I want you to make and to practice off the snow is practice squatting down into this more squatted position instead of leaning to your toe edge. Instead, combine a less lean with extending. And as you extend, that loads pressure onto that toe edge naturally. And then as you keep extending, you naturally have your hips open, your chest open, and you can pull out. A couple muscle keynotes to keep in mind for this is it feels like you're flexing your glutes together. That's making you taller. And it feels like you're adding rotation and extending that back leg more than the front leg. We never want to extend 100% because that's going to make us too flat base, fall over. But by having our rotation set here, when we go and snap a spin, we can now put our upper body into this more relaxed position. That's just going to let us channel more power. And this is going to be really important when we want to start adding more rotation throughout our form, because if we go from here and try to add more rotation, it's going to be really hard to get that full power and that full range of motion, and it's going to really hold you back. So work on that a little bit. Let me know if you're having any difficulties with it. I have a few videos on the YouTube that help explain it. The back seven video I did on how to train backside 720s is really applicable for this. If you can't find it, let me know and I'll help you out. With that, let's get back to the video analysis. So just with that little bit of context in mind, let's go and break her down. So see here how you're coming in, really relying on leaning onto that heel edge, and we can see that your board's lifting up quite aggressively and you're having your front knee and legs sort of fully extended here. This is making it so you don't have enough bend and range of motion in your legs to go and keep it so your front knee's pointed. And I think that's actually what's happening here is your front knee is sort of being turned a little bit inward. So you're coming up and this knee's here, and that's what's making you sort of like not able to commit to that. But let's take that front knee and make sure it's pulled towards the corner of the jump, and then let's sink the hips into that. And then see how you're taking your upper body and you're shifting your upper body forward in order to go and get that toe pressure. Imagine if we were in a bit more of a squat down position and then we just squatted up from it. What happens when you're in a squatted position for that heel edge and then you start squatting up, your pressure gets less and less towards that heel edge and more towards your toe edge. So you're still going to want to use a little bit of leaning. I'm not advanced enough to go and just use full extension. A little bit of leaning still super important, but we don't want to fully rely on it. And then from there, we'll hopefully have you a little bit taller, have this arm more out here, have the hips a little bit more open. We'll make you have your head looking more straight off this corner. And from that, do every single thing that you're doing right now, with the exception of maybe keeping the arms a little bit lower. Because if you have your arms sort of going above your shoulder point, for sort of going to get wear, it's going to limit range of motion. And if you snap really hard and try to pull there, I have bad shoulders, so it personally hurts me. So it might just be a little bit easier if you keep the arms slightly lower. But the biggest problem people usually have is keeping their arms too low, so don't worry about that too much. Yeah, make those changes, continue doing what you're doing. Oh, the head transfer and movement and continuing for your energy is really doing a lot for you right here. So fantastic work. Make those changes. Let me know how it goes and let me know if you have any more questions.